Mahomes has not been razor sharp this year.
Nope.
He hasn't looked in any game as sharp as Tua did against the Buffalo Bills.
No, 2 of the last 2 games, Tua played well versus Arizona. Like, that's
Yeah.
the thing is the
But
offense.
for a guy that people were saying should retire, which maybe it would be a wise move. But
it's not getting hit. Again, the offensive line, they're having him get rid of the ball like a half a second.
Oh, yeah. No, he just throws it. He doesn't even have the full grip on the snap yet.
Are they even in a route yet?
Yeah. I mean, that's the way he plays. When he's sharp, he
No,
throws those darts. I have to give
Maybe
it to
they
him. I mean,
scared
he's
the
as good at
spirit.
that as anybody we've seen.
Maybe they were like, listen, motherfuckers, if he gets touched, you are going to with Liz Cheney. Like, the offensive line hasn't played this well in fucking years. The last 2 weeks, they're road grading. Like, the way they're running the ball, like, is
And tough, yeah, tough, good inside running. It isn't always these sweeps, double reverses,
no,
and all of this
just
stuff.
running.
Where they like to pass, toss the ball to Tyreek Hill as he comes around the end, and he gets smacked for a loss of 3. Not even trying it, just powering the ball. Very Dan Campbell-esque in their approach.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right, very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Election day, we made it. Will this be the end? As we know it? Well, it will be one way or the other. It's going to be the fucking end. I'm trying to share Lubie's optimism about the outcome of this thing. I'm not really sure. I mean, we've seen stranger things happen in the past. I remember being stunned when the Trumpster won in 2016. I was not surprised, but I thought he was in there with more than a shot in 2020, in spite of all of the atrocities that had taken place. People forget what kind of a clown show that was. Everybody's asking, oh, well, geez, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Yeah, damn right I am. Because I didn't have to put up with this insufferable asshole as president of the United States for the chance to, imagine how exacerbated the damage would have been had this guy been in office. Although the good news would be, at least that would be coming to an end. But would the cult be, and I don't mean to imply that everybody that votes for Republicans in a cult, look, a lot of people don't like Kamala and think that, this whole thing was bogus. I understand all of that. I don't know necessarily where all this acrimony came from. Is it strictly over border issues and the economy? Because according to Trump, and that's why Mustang said, hey, can we go grocery shopping today and get some things for the house? I said, no. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. Because if Trump gets elected,
Prices.
I'll fix it on the very first day. Yeah.
There they come.
War in the Ukraine, I'll call my buddy Vlad and tell him to, knock it off. It's about time you pulled out of there and stopped bombing these poor people.
Definitely.
Gaza Strip, it's over, man.
Yeah,
on the phone with BB, and you may as well be talking to BB Rebozo. I'm just going to tell him the way we're going to operate, and that's the way it's going to go down. Nobody would defy the boss, the big man. Prices, gas will be $1.50 by tomorrow. It's going to be good. I don't even think he needs to take office for this.
No, it's just automatic.
In fact, if there was a guy that was capable of bringing this about, I would push him right into the White House today.
We all would have. That's the thing.
I love that. Well, I'll fix that on day one. Well, what the fuck, man? I mean, how did we get to this mess in the first place? It wasn't strictly. It wasn't like the country was great and then Biden and Kamala came along and ruined it.
No,
I don't know where people get that perception that the economy. I mean, look, what parameters do you go by? You go by the stock market. It's over double what it was in 2020.
Yes,
which is pretty amazing. Now prices. I mean, largely that's a byproduct of corporate greed more so than anything else. You see those Publix officials in Lakewood?
Yeah, it's a joke. Get the fuck out of here.
They're living like they just signed an NBA max contract.
Exactly.
Extension. All of them, right? Even like the deli manager, that was a regional guy. Speaking of regional, Lubie, more carnage in the radio business. Did you see that?
Oh, wow.
iHeart, whoosh, massive cuts all over the place. I didn't see anything out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or even Palm Beach for that matter. But, got canned, was publicized today, your man, John Momola from the Tampa.
Oh, he did?
Station. Yeah.
Oh, wow. He was one that they
dedicated, man. You talk about dedicated.
No, he was good, but he just seemed to keep making it through all the nonsense. Wow.
Who was the other guy? Jason something. Had a weird last name like Blomberg or something. I don't know what the hell it was. It wasn't Blasberg or something like that. Remember that guy? He was on our show. They had him come on our show. Remember when we were trying to do a thing that they had a regional sports show that iHeart was promoting that lasted about 3 weeks? And they told us Blasbach was the guy's name, something like that. You don't remember this guy? He was very nice. Work with that guy Kravitz. Anyway, these are obscure names, but we feel the pain of the people that were caught up in the carnage. iHeartMedia, the radio business, once again, taking another dive. So we're glad to be here. I'm going to get out and vote right after another show to do after this one, a little barrier bookie action, which last night, pretty easy pick, I thought. Taking the points with Tampa Bay, Lubie, were you inclined to go along with that? 9 points was a lot to lay with the way that the Kansas City Chiefs have been playing. Big debate about that game. I didn't see it. I fell asleep before the end of the ball game. It looked like it was going back and forth, and that there was a possibility. I thought all along that Tampa Bay was going to cover. They end up getting a game-tying touchdown, and then people are questioning this. I don't know why, because I think the right move is just to get the game into overtime. But everybody wants to pressure the coach that just is in a position to tie the game to go for two there and go for the outright win. How do you feel about that, Lubie? What would you do in that spot? I mean, you kick the field. I mean, the extra point. You're in overtime. Supposedly have an equal shot. Now, this was one of those examples where the stupid variation in the rule, which is different during the regular season than it is in the postseason, and people to say, well, baseball changes its rules in the postseason. Okay, that's understandable because they're trying not to make the 162-game regular season loaded with such drudgery that you might go out to the ballpark 2 nights in a row and sit through 16-inning games. I don't know that anybody really wants to do that, right? So they use the runner out at second base during the regular season. They take it out because it is a little bogus in the postseason. And in the postseason, with championships on the line, probably you should go ahead and let that play out the regular old school fashion. But in football, I mean, it's ridiculous to think that you could win the coin flip and that the other team never gets a chance to get their hands on a ball in overtime. I just, for the life of me, don't understand whether you score a touchdown or not. I understand the incentive was to get teams to go for the touchdown, but this is a timed period that's going to eventually end after 15 minutes of play. Did they go 10 or 15 minutes in the overtime period, Libby? When they put up
down to 10. It used to be 15.
Down to 10, yeah. Had to be, right? Because we watched we watched the game the other night. I think in the Thursday night game, the team that was in overtime ended up. No, that was that the Jet game last Thursday? Yeah. Well, one of the games I was watching, team gets the ball in overtime and eats up the first 7.5 minutes. And then, that was the Patriot game. Patriots against the Tennessee Titans, where the Titans eat up the first 7.5 minutes. So it had to be, what, a 10-minute overtime period they put up? Nonetheless, for one team not to even get its hands on a ball is an atrocity, and that's what happened last night. Kansas City gets the ball in overtime. They ignore any number of glaring penalties on the Kansas City Chiefs, including, I mean, would you not throw a flag immediately anytime? The guy's name is Juwan Taylor. Have you seen this guy? He's guilty of more false starts and holes than any tackle in the league, any offensive lineman. And anytime you see a Chiefs game, this guy's good for 3 or 4 flags on those 2 calls. So he, I mean, just blatantly gets out of position as the Chiefs are in. I think they were in the red zone then, and so instead of being knocking on the door for the goal line and having a short pass get them in for the winning score, they would have been knocked back 5 yards. It would have made the play call and dynamic of the whole situation a lot different, and maybe cost them the game. But no flag whatsoever because the officials wanted to get out of there. Lubie, what do you think? Such ugliness, though. But the Chiefs remain unbeaten. They don't cover the point spread. I took a shot last night on the Barrier Bookie show. I probably should stay out of this, Lubie, because we know it's impossible to predict NBA outcomes. Although there are a few things happening. But last night's NBA results were about as funky as anything you'll ever see, including your Miami Heat, which, how about this for a trend? Last night, they get outscored in the third quarter again, Lubie, at home, 37-17. What the fuck are they doing at halftime, Lubie? What's going on there? I know they had the long Pat Riley court dedication ceremony, then came out flat as a Parisian runway model in one of the games they played at home. I guess that was the home opener. They did it again, and that was against Orlando. They did it again the other night against the Knicks, right, where they fell apart in the third quarter. And this time, just a joke as they fall to the Sacramento Kings, 37-17. outscored by 20 in the third quarter. They eventually lose by 1 point, but not very encouraging. How could that pattern be so outrageously severe in terms of failure? Third quarter at home, the Heat are averaging 17.8 points per third quarter at home. Don't even crack 20. So I don't know what they're doing, but nonetheless, it was ugliness. And overall, the Heat in the third quarter are scoring the least number of points in the league. So they're behind really shitty teams like Brooklyn, Detroit, Charlotte, Portland, Philadelphia, who hasn't had any of their players, Utah, which has gotten off to a horrible start. They're averaging 21.8 points per game in the third quarter so far this year. So definitely something that needs to be fixed or adjusted. And I mean, Spoelstra to allow this ugly trend to continue? How does that happen? Doesn't he need to get the grease board out there and start drawing up some fucking plays?
Yeah, he actually did bring it up last night. He said that these third quarters are killing us. I mean, they thought taking a game at the end too, but it didn't have to be that way. Like, yeah, the third quarters. I don't know what that is. I guess they're letting up after half. It's weird because you would think they would turn it on after.
Just half. Arbitrary, circumstance. With no real rationale behind it. I mean, sometimes we try to come up with a reason for these things that happen in sports. Sports is, not necessarily always something that you can quantify with tangible numerology and rationale, right? Sometimes guys just fucking suck in certain periods of time. And the Heat certainly are demonstrating that in the third quarters of their games. You had college basketball get underway last night, Lubie. Was Florida State the only team that didn't play? Is Leonard Hamilton still their coach?
Hamilton is their coach. We played the other day. I think they may have played yesterday. I don't know. I'll look into it.
No, that had to be the official opening day. I would imagine that you couldn't play any games before yesterday, the way the schedule was.
The official opening of college basketball.
All right. Did you see anything that stuck out to you? I saw a couple of things. As we had the University of Miami was in action, and they hammered Fairleigh Dickinson, which you might expect. Jim Larrañaga coming off a very strange. I mean, last year's UM basketball season was somewhat inexplicable, was it not? Libby, what happened to the University of Miami last year? Was it injuries? Because you rarely see a Jim Larrañaga team fall on its face like the University of Miami team did last year. They lose a couple of guys, and they still have Nigel Pack. What is he in? His sixth year? Nigel Pack, he's still on the roster.
Oh, really? Jesus.
Still on the roster. And they end up in a cakewalk. Very easy. I mean, what is that? 50, 60 points? No, 40-something points. 41 points they went by. 113-72. 113-72 over Fairleigh Dickinson. Our man Rick Pitino over Fordham, 92-60. Gonzaga, that was pretty impressive. They beat Baylor. That was a battle of teams ranked in the top 10. Gonzaga was number 6, Baylor number 8. And Gonzaga just a rout, 101-63. My Syracuse Orange, this is kind of funny, Lou, because I can't believe this game was this close. I believe they may have even lost in this particular matchup, which I don't know how many times they've opened the season against Lemoyne. Lemoyne, at one time, I suppose now it has university status. But, yeah, I mean, that was one of those patsy teams that was always scheduled. It's just outside of Syracuse, Lemoyne. So they met in the season opener in the Cuse. Hard-pressed to knock down Lemoyne. 86-82, the final there. So not a very promising start. And a couple of Texas teams lost. One to UCF. Texas A&M, ranked 13th in the country, Loopy, goes down to UCF. And Texas lost to an unranked Ohio State team in one of the tournament games in Las Vegas. So got off to a colossal start there, college basketball. A lot of blowouts. We were talking about some of the mismatches that were on the board there. A lot of patsies on the schedule. But as we also noted, college basketball is great in this respect because you have teams playing each other that are highly ranked early in the season, and you can sustain a few losses and still be very much in contention for national championship stature because those kind of things are decided later in the season when you get into the conference schedule and of course, conference tournaments. Big factor in there. And usually if you're playing well, look at UConn. They've been one of those teams, last couple of years as they won the championship, they just started to steamroll their way through the competition towards the end of the year. And what they did in the beginning of the year, which I would imagine in UConn's case was significantly decent, but nonetheless, it's not nearly as critical as it is in college football to avoid sustaining any losses whatsoever. So you do see some really quality, high-powered marquee matchups early in the season in college basketball. All right, a lot of stuff to get into today. Chris Perkins is going to join us. How do we need to discuss that? How do we fix the Miami Dolphins? I think Mike Mayo had misinterpreted my thoughts yesterday. I didn't say that I was optimistic about what they're going to do the rest of the season.
You said that was better.
I just said that in that particular game,
yeah,
you really couldn't sit there and go nuts and start crying and fetching and point out a zillion negatives about the Miami Dolphins. They actually played a very good game against a good team and lost. That's going to happen. They were on the road. They get beaten on a miraculous 61-yard field goal. But in general, for the most part, except for chucking the ball down the field and connecting on long passes, they pretty much did what you would think they would have to, except maybe the big concern now, Lubie, and how much does it matter that they don't have Jalen Phillips? Because they also they lost Wilkins in free agency, although I believe he's injured now, Christian Wilkins, but he was a big factor for him. Van Ginkel was one of those players that you really enjoy having on your roster, but when he left, was it like was it like Ray Nitschke, leaving the lineup, or Lawrence Taylor? I don't think so. Dick Butkus, he was a good player and he's actually having a real good year. He has a couple of pick sixes already, Van Ginkel, and he always seemed to be one of those guys. Is it fair to give him this nose for the ball?
Yes.
Type of, I mean, he knew how to somehow be involved in the action. He was great like that. But I mean, those losses, and you mentioned you love bringing up Bradley Chubb, but where is he? Is he on the roster, Bradley Chubb?
He hasn't played at all, and I haven't heard any discussion of him playing. Like, he had an injury last year. And I don't, and Phillips supposedly had the worst injury, and Phillips came back this year. Of course, got hurt again in an equally bad injury because that's who he is. But he came back and played. So, like, I don't get, he hasn't played. And again, I've heard nothing about him.
Jim Sarney brings up the NFL trade deadline is today. I saw a discussion or listened to one. It was on TV last night. Our man Kim Bokamper was talking about what the Miami Dolphins need to do. Kim tends to be, I don't know if privately he's extremely cynical about the team, but in public he seems to be somewhat favorable. No? What would you say, Louie? Are we getting a bunch of BS from Kim Bokamper with his opinion about the Dolphins?
Probably.
A little sugar-coated, maybe? I don't know.
Not going to be real. I mean.
Well, I think he's an honest guy. I mean, I've worked with Kim over the years, but in his early stages as a broadcaster, we encouraged him to, just let go and be himself, right, Lubie? I mean, you can't be an uptight stiff just spewing cliches, which, he eventually became very good at this. And yet you get the feeling on these, what is it, the Dolphin Hour, the Monday Morning Quarterback, this, that, all of these different things that they have to have CBS promote the fact that they have the Dolphins, which nothing wrong with that. But he was saying that they really don't need, what are they going to do of any great significance? They're not getting rid of any of their marquee guys, Lubie. Would you agree that that's not happening? I mean, if Chris Greer is getting calls about Tyreek Hill right now, you think he's entertaining them? Or is he just immediately hanging up the phone and telling the guy to go fuck himself? What do you think?
Oh, no. I mean, at some point they're going to have to shed. I just don't know if it's Greer as the guy you're going to have to do that. But it's just at some point you're going to have to sell off. I mean, they're 2-6. Like, you can want to win badly, but if you're not doing it on the field, they have a lot of big contracts. Like,
what do they have though that people would be looking for? I mean, they're stars, maybe. I mean, who wouldn't want Tyreek Hill in their lineup? Some teams might not, but still, I mean, when you look at the wide receiver position, how critical it is, and if you have one of these guys, big difference maker, you don't think that? I don't know. I guess the Chiefs are happy. You think they're happy to get rid of Tyreek Hill? The Kansas City Chiefs certainly hasn't hurt them any. They've won 2 championships since then. And Hill came with a pile of problems. Well, we shrug off some of Tyreek Hill's stuff, and maybe it's of a more. I don't know that it's of a more innocent nature. What do you think? Slugging that fisherman and some of the other stuff that he's done. Tyreek Hill, is he somebody that, if you were an organization that operated with any semblance of integrity, you would say, "Hey, we don't really want to promote this guy as part of our team." What do you think? Because we just overlook all of the shit with Tyreek
Oh
Hill.
yeah, when you're good. I mean, but the problem, and he was better this week. But yeah, I mean, they found a way to take him out of games. There's only so much you're willing to put up with. That. To me, it's all about what you can get in return. I mean, just, people think there's another year with this group. I doubted it before this season. That's why I thought this season was such a big thing for them, because this was the season.
Yeah.
Um,
How can McDaniel, this offensive guru type genius, with all of these super sophisticated systems and ways of getting guys open, how would he explain it? He doesn't throw the ball to Jalen Waddle until the fourth quarter in a couple of games this year, and that the guy has two significant catches, but they both came at the end of the game. And was he even targeted before that? Did they even try to throw the ball to Waddle? I always felt this way, Libby. I mean, I was not any kind of a brilliant point guard or anything, but when you were playing ball, if you were sort of the initiator of the action, right? Maybe you were the shortest guy out there, so you ended up in a point guard spot, some half court game. You're playing 4-on-4, or even if you're playing full court, going 5-on-5. Did you not feel it was important to get everybody involved in the game right away? Like you didn't want to just work unless you had a guy that you knew it was terrible. You wanted everybody to sort of get involved in the action so that they were all, moving around and nobody was standing around, nobody was sulking, nobody was yelling here, here, here. And it was a crucial thing. I get everybody involved as quickly as you possibly can. So you wanted to hit the guy, in the corner there for his shot. You wanted to make sure the big man got fed a little bit. Then you do some things to get the other player involved. Would you not want to establish Waddle and Hill right away in any ball game? Even if you ran the ball a couple of times just to soften up the opposition, because they know that this is what you want to do. But don't you have to find a way to do that? How can you just let these guys lavish there while you're throwing 16 passes to Jonnu Smith? What do you think?
It's not like they want to get the ball to them. The way the defenses are covering them is they're forcing you to throw to other people. That's why throwing to Jonnu Smith will and has opened things up, and you sort of have to do that. Yes, you do have to give them opportunities to put the ball in their hands, but if the defenses are going to put two guys over both of them, then you take the guys that are open. I mean, that's what offenses do.
They're able to do that and contain and really just suppress any activity from Waddle until the fourth quarter of games. You really, I mean, after a while, you would have exposed that and exploited it to the point where you should be well ahead in the ball game, but. Anyway, that's not happening. To answer your question, Jim, I don't know. I can't imagine that they're going to trade any of their marquee guys. And who would they acquire? What would they need? Somebody on defense, you would think. What, linebackers? What do you think they need to get? And what's available for them? And at what price, I guess, would be the other question. Because you would think that stockpiling of draft picks is probably dissipated down to the point where on draft day, they probably just take the day off in the future. So we'll see. But now we'll get into that with Chris Perkins.
Here, well, that's Perk.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they've dealt with some hard luck this year. Like a lot of teams, they could easily have a few more wins, at least a couple, right? Where games changed on the final play.
The last 3 games they should have won. If you want to say the Bills are a better team, fine, but they were right there with the Bills. The defense
right there, yeah, had every chance to win it.
And the Colts game, they had a 10-point lead, and the Colts aren't good.
No.
And the
Cardinals,
they had a 10-point lead in the fourth. They had a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter. Like, they should have won that game. But that's my problem is they didn't. So you can't.
How come the defensive coordinator isn't on the hot seat for these late game meltdowns?
It's not good. He's new. It's year one. I get it, but he's not getting the job done. Like the defense, now they have a lot of injuries. They do, and that's not his fault. But I don't know. He's not doing a bang up job. That's for damn sure. They're not better than they were last year.
How long before they become completely irrelevant for the season?
Oh God!
2 more losses if they go to 2-8.
I think they're already. No,
they're on the road this week against a Rams team that's been okay this year. I don't know. I haven't seen that much Rams football. They won last week, but they certainly have played a decent brand of football under McVay, who is coaching his eyeballs out. Would you rather have McVay or McDaniel?
Oh, McVay.
One game proposition.
Yeah. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2.
Seems like he's totally absorbed in this stuff. Now, not that McDaniel isn't, but a completely different approach. All right, NFL standings. Here we go. Los Angeles Rams are 4-4. They're Moses Malone, and they trail a half game behind in the West. The Arizona Cardinals, a surprising 5-14. San Francisco also in there at 4-4. They get McCaffrey back, and the Seattle Seahawks, who opened up with 3 wins, are now 1-5 in their last 6 games. So they seem to have come back to reality, and are no longer any kind of a force to be reckoned with. You would think in that division. So, are the Rams anything of great distinction? No, but would you go ahead and lay 2.5 points against the Dolphins on the road on the West Coast in that ball game coming up on Monday night? I mean, what do you think?
Oh no. I mean, I know that the Niners have whatever issues they have, but the Niners should use this as fodder. I don't trust this defense at all. The offense.
This is the Rams. So they're playing the Rams
this week.
Yeah.
I know they play the Niners soon.
Yeah.
The Rams are playing better football. They've won 3 in a row. That's not a great sign. Like the Dolphins have lost. Is it 4 in a row or 3? I think they've lost 5 of 6. Or
Does Matthew Stafford just pick this defense apart?
that's my fear. Yes, the way the defense is playing right now, they get no pressure. They don't cause turnovers. I think they've had like 5 on the year. So I don't know. They don't cause turnovers. Like they're doing a bend but don't break thing. But we see veteran quarterbacks that have patience, and maybe Stafford didn't have that in his early days, but he's definitely gotten much better at that in his older years. I don't know. I think the offense has found its way in a sense, so maybe they can keep it close. I've lost a lot of faith in this team finding a way to finish off games. I mean, they struggle.
Imagine a 2-7 start.
Bad teams. I mean, to expect they're going to finish off a game versus a pretty good team that has found their legs and is turning into a good team. I can't predict that. That's for sure. What we've seen, and McDaniel has gotten better at least sticking with what's working. So I give him credit for that. But he hasn't shown the coaching acumen to go and end a game like in 3 years. Even when they win, it's because they win big. Whenever games are close, they find a way to lose it. That's Mayo's. The one thing he says he's not wrong. Like the defense, I don't like the term clutch or not clutch. But it seems like if you need the offense finally did it last week, and they've done it actually through the years, even though
I love that term, clutch.
I just don't.
I think it's readily evident a lot of times, and some people have it, some players have it, some
players,
do.
yeah. But when they talk about a whole team being clutch, I don't know what to do with that. Like, there's a lot of pieces that go into it, but you can look at the numbers. We watch enough Dolphins football. Whenever the defense needs to make a stop, I can't remember one time they have the Titans game. Yeah. It was a Titans with a rookie quarterback who wasn't good, and they couldn't get off the fucking field at the end of the game. Like that's
because you need clutch players, Lubie. You need guys that when the money's on the table, they go all Johnny Chan there, and then you see a feeble-looking and shocked Eric Seidel going, "What? You had it straight? You had it all along? You fucking." And then goes into a bunch of Asian slurs as he loses the World Series of Poker. All right, we're going to talk to Chris Perkins. Chris will enlighten us on all of these things about the Miami Dolphins. I don't mean to dwell on a team that's 2-6, but it is interesting. And you do. I don't see them making any major moves. Maybe Chris he's got a line on something that the Dolphins are talking about doing. I'm not sure exactly what they would need, except somewhat of a makeover. No, yes. So it seems.
You need defensive line help. They need linebacking help. They need secondary help. I don't know if they're finding that to trade deadline.
I did want to get this in. I've talked about this many times. I am amazed when I watch these marathons. They had the New York City Marathon the other day, one of the major marathons that are contested. Probably Boston Marathon would probably be number 1 worldwide. Boston Marathon.
I guess.
What do you think in terms of marathon?
When you think of.
Whatever. I mean, higher. No, what would it be?
Well, New York City is a marathon, but the Boston
New York City marathon. But it's one of the ones that you hear these marathon competitors say, "Yeah, I won Tokyo, I won New York, I won London." So Boston. It's one of the big ones. Yeah. It's not like they're out in Saskatchewan somewhere. It's a New York City marathon. So anyway, and in the women's race, of course, my tried and true formula worked. Box to Kenyans. And Kenyan women ran 1 and 2. On the other side, though, I think a Norwegian guy ended up winning the men's marathon. But what amazes me about it, I don't know, did you ever have to do timed miles for any purpose?
No,
in
I
gym
didn't.
Class? Never?
No.
It's crazy because I remember I was in good shape in high school my last couple of years, physically fit. Ready to rumble, and I had gone from being a relatively slow runner to being fairly quick in terms of burst of speed and being able to sustain it. I mean, I wasn't going to set any world records in 100-yard dashes or anything, but I could run a little bit. and I had tremendous stamina from that run up Sutphin Boulevard to the Jamaica train station, which I started doing when I was 16. When I had to outrun the criminals that were all over the place in Queens, even though the immigration issue was not nearly as high. It still, it still was a treacherous run. So I would take off as fast as I could. I became a decent runner. I had good stamina. Could go long distances. And the barometer was a 6-minute mile, Lubie. You had to be able to run a 6-minute mile in gym class
Okay.
to qualify to go out for certain teams. Okay. And even at the height of my physical fitness and the enjoyment of running, I enjoyed it. I really did. 6 minutes. I mean, you had that feeling in your chest, when you feel like you're going to die. And
Yeah.
like I mean, I haven't had that feeling in a long, long time. I haven't pushed myself to those levels, but where you have no oxygen. I mean, you're just absolutely drained. How do these guys do it? Sub 5-minute miles, and they rattle off 26 of them in a row, and then they sprint home. Lubie, how is that possible?
I don't know. I was never good at long distance. I was good at short distance running. Long distance, and I don't have asthma, but I would always get, and I was in good shape, and I could play all day. But if it was at one point running a long distance, I would get gassed.
If you started running right now and said, you know what, I'm going to discipline myself, I'm going to get in tremendous shape, and I'm going to try and crack a 5-minute mile, I think you might spend the rest of your life trying to do that. And these guys, I mean, 26 of them back to back to back to back to back. Think about that, Louis. It's almost impossible to conceive of, and yet they do it. All right, one guy that can do it is Chris Perkins. We're going to pick it up with Chris Perkins here, and he's going to solve, much like Trump will solve the economy and the immigration issue on day one. Don't buy groceries today, people. Wait until tomorrow. If your tank is near empty, this will be $1.50 tomorrow.
Magically better tomorrow.
One snap of the finger. War is over. Corruption, gone.
Gone.
The swamp will be drained.
No more swamp at all. Buy everything.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow.
In a day.
Will be a day of enlightenment. All right, we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that Chris Perkins is going to join us. Always fun. Thank you. It's 8:34.
Oh my God.
Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
This comes from the great Defo Lama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Always a pleasure to introduce this gentleman to the program, and we want to get to the bottom of what's going on with this Miami Dolphin franchise. So why not bring in a man that is the distinguished columnist on the Miami Dolphins for the Sun Sentinel. We welcome to the show Chris Perkins to the program, and you're back in your digs there, Chris, with the lap pool and all of the other amenities that you have there at the Perkins Mansion. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, you know the significance of today, right? It is the trade deadline. It is
Yes.
election day.
Yes.
But screw both of those. It's my birthday. So
Oh,
Oh,
you're
everybody,
good.
it's my day,
right.
Oh my
baby.
God,
It's
you're
my
really doing
day.
his birthday perk.
Happy
I don't
birthday.
think
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
that you spend it with us, Chris Perkins.
That's my first choice. I mean, come on, come on.
We feel yeah, and we
birthday
try to have
perk.
a party here
Oh
every
my
morning,
God,
so
it's
it's
your
good that,
birthday.
that you're with us. All right, and you look great, whatever age you are, you look great.
Happy birthday perk.
Yeah,
Oh
later
yeah.
on in life, as happened with me, anytime you would show up at any kind of reunion, whether it was family or a school reunion, the first question always was, "What happened to you?" We're asking Mayo that now when he keeps posting these pictures of young Mayo with a mullet there when he was a dashing swinger working there at the Sun Sentinel. All right, Lubie and I trying to explore some of this stuff. We don't have any answers, so we turn to you. And as you mentioned, a trade deadline today. I guess we can start there because people would think, well, geez, a 2-16 obviously is in need of something. I was watching one of our contemporaries, Kim Bokamper, analyzing the situation. He said, well, maybe they'll make some changes at the bottom of the roster. None of these marquee guys are in play. What is your thought? I mean, what's the scenario that we're looking at with the Dolphins? Would you be shocked to see something of any significance done by the trade deadline by this team?
Yeah, I would. And thanks to Jim Sarney for the birthday wishes. Lions versus Ravens. That's not a bad Super Bowl pick, Jim. Yeah, I would be shocked if they made a major move. Maybe some minor tinkering if you get a pass rusher or something like that. But look, I think from what I heard from Mike McDaniel yesterday and what I think this team's attitude is, they're going to push forward and try to make this playoff run from a 2-6 starting point. And I think that's what they should do. I do think that they should stand pat today. Don't make any major moves. What I would do out of courtesy is go to Calais Campbell and say, look, I know that you want to win a title. You came here with that idea. You're our best defensive lineman, one of our best players, but we will honor your wishes. If you want us to look, we will look and try to find a trade to a contender or something like that. But outside of that, I'm not trading Teron Armstead. I'm not trading Javon Holland, not looking to trade Tyreek or Jalen Waddle or anything of that sort. What I'm doing is I'm looking at what the offense started against Buffalo, right? The good play calling. You can continue with that run game. And to me, that's the way that I would use this 2-6 starting point is – look, really, probably one of my first moves, quite honestly, I've got to bench Raheem Mostert and I've got to play Jalen Wright. And moving forward, Raheem's not going to be part of this team, next season. He's cost me 2 victories with fumbles against Indy and Buffalo. Sorry, Raheem, I can't have it. And that's how I'm proceeding so that I can both make a run this year and see what I've got for next year and how I should approach the offseason.
What's interesting is it feels like we're in such a different place than we were a few weeks ago because Tua's back. He's played 2 weeks. He's looked good. The offense has looked better, which is what people were saying would happen, and we've seen it. The running, Mike McDaniel sticking with the run. It's the offensive line is blocking in a way we haven't seen in a long time. But now the defense is sieve-like. I get it. The Cardinals with Kyler Murray present issues, and Josh Allen is a good quarterback, if not a great quarterback. All true. But the second half last week, or 2 weeks ago now, they really didn't do much. And this week, I don't know if they got to stop after the first freaking quarter. Like, what is going on? And I get it, they have injuries and they have issues. But to me, if they need to batten down the hatches and do something, it's on defense. They don't get enough pressure at all. You just said it. Calais Campbell's like at 94. And he is their best. It's not even a little. He's playing as good as he's played in years. And thank goodness for him. But they don't get pressure. The secondary's sort of a mess. You see guys run. Mac Hollins. We know Mac Hollins. I like Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins shouldn't be the key cog in 2 drives to end a game. I'm just confused at what's going on defensively. And do you see any way that they shore it up, they fix it, they correct it in any way?
Sure, you got to outscore people. I look at this totally. Look, and I'm serious. I look at this totally differently. The offense wet the bed. The offense wet the bed. Okay. Raheem Mostert, you can't lose a fumble. Look, Buffalo came down here and scored 31 points. Yeah. Why in the world do you think you could go up there and score 27 and that's going to be good enough?
Okay.
You can't. Like, the offense has to step up at some point. Like, I'm going to go off on the offense today on the podcast, on the Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk, noon, sunsentinel.com.
Nice.
We keep letting this freaking offense off the hook. Go out there and win a freaking game. You can't look in the second half. Buffalo went, let me get this right. Touchdown, 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 field goal. The Dolphins go lost fumble, touchdown, touchdown, field goal. You can't do that. Like, this offense, Tyreek, step up. Jalen Waddle, step up. Tua, do more. Like, the guys who got the money, you've got to do more. I'm not going to blame Cam Smith and Tyus Bowser and Jordan and Kendall Fuller for this loss. Like, they didn't get the contract extensions. Like the guys who get the money, you're still an offensive team. Offense, go out there and win a freaking road game. Win a big game. Like, do something. Like, you showed improvement. It wasn't good enough. I'm not giving you the moral victory here. I know they say they don't want it. They're all taking it. The Dolphins are taking this moral victory. Hey, we did good things. It wasn't good enough. You're 2-6. Offense, win a freaking game.
Have you used the phrase "wet the bed" in print at the Sun Sentinel?
No.
Or does this represent a new era of openness to expression?
Yeah.
And usually it would be a numero dos there that people were talking about.
Yeah, that's a slice of my childhood that I'm reflecting back to there.
What the bed? Yeah. I did it last night, though. It comes back around. I mean, it's amazing. The cycle of life, because you're wetting a bed as a 2-year-old, and then you're doing it again when you're 73. All right. Speaking of which, the thing that is mystifying to me, and Lubie had a brilliant, Gruden-esque explanation about the cover 2 and this and that, about how it is. And you played basketball and other sports. If you're, in a football game, even in the sandlot, you want to establish your guys right away. You don't want to throw 5 straight passes to one guy. If you're doing a show, you want to move it around the horn a little bit. You don't want to have just like one guy dominating the whole thing all the time, even though that's sort of the nature of this. But you want to go to your best guy. So I don't know if Waddle was targeted before the fourth quarter, but I'm looking at the guy had 2 catches, both very significant, but they didn't come until late in the fourth quarter. One for the touchdown that brought him into a situation where they had tied the game, and then the other one was a key, I think, third down conversion. He makes a nice catch on the sideline there for like a 13-yard gain. But how is it? I mean, is he being taken away? Are they the defense is concentrating so heavily on Jalen Waddle that he's a vanishing act for the first 3 quarters of a game? This is not the first time that's happened. No, with him, man. Hill had 4 catches in the game, but that pales in comparison to what we used to see from him when they were explosive, like you said.
Yeah, what players have told me, because I talked to players in the locker room, I talked to the receivers, I talked to the backup quarterbacks. They say that in addition to that, the too deep safety or too high safety or cloud coverage or
so
whatever.
Lubie was right. Wow.
In addition to that, they're jamming them at the line of scrimmage. And so that's throwing off the timing of the passing game. And so, I did a story on this last week, and I asked Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator, and Mike McDaniel, what do you do about that? And Frank Smith said, well, sometimes, we can put Tyreek in motion or put one of them in motion and prevent them from putting hands on them. But really, they've got to win those battles at the line of scrimmage. And so they were saying the first drill of every practice, that's what they work on is, getting off the line of scrimmage. But man, I just look at this, and that's a viable explanation. But I just look at this and I say, if they're that easy to shut down, why the hell did you give them contract?
Exactly. Yeah.
Something is missing here. I don't know what it is, but something's missing with that explanation.
Get me Andre Johnson or something. Get me a big mofo who can, handle that sort of thing. I mean, and then, of course, the great Sandlot play was always fake it to the guy at the line of scrimmage, and then shoom, he takes off on a flying pass after that.
Use the aggression against them. Yes.
Right.
You would think that would work. All right, so where are we at with the coaching staff, Chris Perkins? Because they're always questioning. You mentioned that you were at a Mike McDaniel press conference. Does he, like Shohei Ohtani, have an interpreter, even though he probably understands everything that's being said? Is there an interpreter for McDaniel? So I could see, like, if Harvey was still there, he'd be going, yeah, you know what he said, guys? He said that the defense has to get better, and we got to score in the red zone. Touchdowns, no field goals.
Yeah,
Do we know what's going on? I mean, are they okay? Where do you see them at, the coaching staff?
Here's the funny thing about McDaniel is that, 2 years ago and last year, he was this funny guy and his press conferences were stand-up comedy.
Yes.
And now you look at the YouTube thing and it's like, get to the point, McDaniel. How many times is he going to say, fire this He's not
he
funny
looks
anymore.
morose.
You're not nearly as funny as you were at 9-3. Go figure.
No.
So I think the coaching staff, they're searching for answers also. And look, we see Anthony Weaver shuffling around. We see Mike McDaniel make a kind of a philosophical change kind of the last few weeks, right, with the concentration on the run game. So I think right now they're kind of seeing, how versatile are we? Can we do multiple things? Like with the offense, you were just that deep pass to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Now you're discovering Jonnu Smith. Now you're discovering, some other guys that are out there. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where, you're kind of in evaluation mode from here on out, that you might have thought some things 3 weeks ago and this guy has got to be fired. I mean, look, the special teams is even doing better. But I'm not saying Danny Crossman's job is safe. I'm just saying I think that you're in evaluation mode now. Can we make the playoffs? Who prevented us from making the playoffs? I think everybody is kind of in evaluation mode, players and coaches now.
All right, you have your finger on the pulse of what the Dolphin public out there is thinking. What are they thinking? I mean, I used to love when I would get the calls after week 3. Dolphins would be 2-1, and people would call in to the talk shows and go, "What do you think we need to do in the draft next year, Defo?" Well, hang up and listen. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I mean. But I mean, let's say that things continue this way, and nothing happens. Maybe they would have to go. Do they have to go 8-1? You think, to make the postseason, or can they?
Well, I think 9 wins can get. Maybe you might need tiebreakers. I would say 7-2. But
so, I mean, which is a tall order, is it not? I mean, it's not like this is any easy path. It seems like they've been playing teams that they should have cleaned up on in the last several weeks. Now we know they were compromised without Tua, but in the bigger picture, I mean, is there a fix to this, or if this doesn't work, if it goes the way it's seeming to trend, are they snookered at that point, having seemingly a couple of years ago when they did the whole fire sale thing, have so many assets, but did they dump them in the wrong direction, and which is unfortunately a lingering picture that seems to be having some validity.
Yeah, and well, Lubie, you tell me if I've got my finger on the pulse of the Dolphins fans. I think everybody is kind of confused and really pissed off that they thought that they had this team over here and the contract extensions go off and go out and you started 8-3 2 years ago and 9-3 last year, and you thought we were finally going to get this thing put together, and now you're worse. And so people are confused and they're pissed off. I think nobody is really sure where to go from here. I think the rest of the season is going to determine a lot as far as, were those legit contract extensions? Can you win with this run game? What have you got defensively? What have you got in Mike McDaniel? Should Chris Greer be fired? I think, pretty much from here, everybody is wondering, what are we going to do? I think everybody's job is on the line from here on out. And I think fans are just kind of in a we're pissed off, you guys better produce type of mode.
Well, and to that, you're not wrong. There's still half a season. There's more than half a season left with 17 games. I don't know if they go 7-2, but stranger things have happened, I guess, especially if the offense can stop turning it over in key spots.
Yeah.
Maybe you can find a way to win those games. But that is my big curiosity is we had Dave Hyde on and a couple weeks ago, and last week he was talking about Chris Greer. It's like everyone just assumed he had a lifetime contract and no one understands why. But that's my curiosity is no one's death certificate's written yet. Okay. But is anyone written in safe? That's my concern would be no matter what happens, some people are just gifted a spot and that can't be good. This is not your family's picnic where you run the sack race. You're like, good job, Johnny. Here's a piece of cake. This is the NFL. I'm sorry. Chris Greer, the people that still talk about how good who's he good at drafting? No one is there without a question mark. Even Tua, who I've defended, has the biggest question mark. everyone they point to Jalen Waddle. Really? Jalen Waddle's a number 2 receiver that you got at the 6th pick. Penei Sewell was drafted at 7th. You still have an offensive line. Like, no draft pick he made was a home run. None. Like, he's drafted for 8 years as a GM. 15 he's been involved highly. Like, is he finally possibly on the will he, won't he? Because it feels like every year, a lot of people, including myself, have been like, how does he still have a job? And it's never been brought up. Like, what you just said, I believe that is for Mike McDaniel. Is that also for Chris Greer, where they could play themselves in, but they could also play themselves out?
Yeah, no, you bring up a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So here's how I see things is that you got to kind of untangle some knots here, right? Because if you fire Chris Greer, does the new GM want Mike McDaniel? And if he doesn't want Mike McDaniel, does the new coach want Tua? And now you're getting into the contract stuff, right? And all that kind of stuff. So you've got to untangle a lot of knots. I think if you fire Chris Greer, now you might be in that same, we always talk about the Dolphins. They do this piecemeal, right? They hire the GM with the old coach and the old quarterback, and you should do it all in one fell swoop, take the broom to it. So if you fire Greer, are you ready to clean house? That's really the question. And look, when you're talking about getting a new coach, New Orleans is already kind of first in line, right? I know they just hired Rizzi as the Darren Rizzi, the former Dolphins special teams coach, their special teams coach. But they're already, whoever, Anthony Weaver, whoever the hot coordinators are out there, they're already looking at New Orleans and their crappy cap situation. But they're first in line. So to me, I kind of think if you're going to get rid of Greer, man, I would probably want to do it by mid-December. That way you're in place to have your GM by Black Friday when all the coaches get loose and you're in line, your GM, you know what I'm saying? That you have a line thinking the new GM will know what he wants in a coach. So that it's not easy to me, Lubie. You kind of, if you fire Greer, there might be other stuff down the line. And so that's kind of, to me, what you're also evaluating.
It could end up being an ugly situation. No, we don't know because of the domino effect of dumping this guy. But I think Dolphin fans would probably be horrified if the season continues to transpire. Let's say they go, 5-3 the rest of the way. Nobody's going to be thrilled about an 8-9 season after the expenditures they went through, as you mentioned. And yet you're stuck, unfortunately, with Chris Greer. Is there anything more delightful, just changing out of the Dolphins here? Because I don't know that we have any answers, right? You just have to go and hope they can win a couple of these close games. But is there anything more delightful than watching Dallas lose? I can't think of anything more pleasurable with Dallas than going back to when right around puberty, Debbie Does Dallas was popular. I mean, other than that, I don't know that I've had any greater self-satisfaction than watching them lose and watching Jerry Jones. I mean, we were trying to figure this out, Chris. You've been around sports forever also. Has there ever been, outside of Steinbrenner, has there ever been another owner that was like the go-to guy after every game for, they don't talk to McCarthy. You don't see anybody else answering questions. It's just Jerry Jones. And I delight in seeing them just absolutely unravel like this in a season where I would have thought going into the year that Dallas would have been one of the favorites to even possibly win the NFC.
Yeah, you know what? No, watching Jerry try to explain this, I have no hatred for Dallas. I don't, and I used to live there.
You're a Texas guy, right?
Yeah, I have no hatred for the Cowboys. I just like seeing Jerry try to explain all of this stuff.
Yes.
It's like, Jerry, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you're not even making
You think
sense.
Jimmy Johnson has a TV out on his boat there, and he just tunes in, like to make sure he catches all of Jerry's press conferences?
I think while on Heineken number 8, yes.
Yeah. I mean, he's reeling in. He's got a school of Mai right in front of him. He's like, fuck this. Look at Jerry. What an asshole.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. The dude loves attention, Jerry Jones. And so I would hate working for him if I'm Mike McCarthy or his coach, because he's going to kneecap you at every instance. But he keeps the coaches through the whole season, right? I mean,
Sure.
So for the most part, your job is secure. You just have to deal with getting ripped for the next 9 weeks.
Yeah, it's ugliness. All right, so who's good? We've mentioned this a couple of times. I have a friend. His name is Dylan Rossi, and he had posted a ticket for me. He ended up cashing a $100 bet, 14 parlay, all championships. $100 bet got him back $90,000. I don't know how much he hedged off once the Dodgers got to the World Series, but it was tied to that. Now, he has another ticket that's alive to the Ravens winning the Super Bowl. He bet $50 on the same four teams that won championships, UConn, Boston Celtics, Panthers, Dodgers. If the Ravens win the Super Bowl, that $50 ticket on a 5-element parlay is worth $480,000.
Wow. Wow.
Sarney says that's a Super Bowl matchup. You gave it a little bit of a thumbs up as a possibility.
Yeah.
We've seen the Ravens stumble a couple of times in spots you would never figure. They lose to the Raiders in week number 2 and knock everybody out of the Circus Survivor pool. They then lose to the Browns and Jameis Winston, who had a typical Jameis Winston bounce back as he throws for 3 touchdowns one game and like 8 picks the next. But still, I mean, 2 of their losses are to teams that you would have to say aren't even questionable variety. They're lousy. Both with possibilities of getting rid of their coaching staff and whatever and going through the same horrific large-scale changes as if they were iHeartMedia all of a sudden. Just everybody must go. All morning shows, you're done. We're going network. What do you make? I mean, of the Ravens, you would have to think, especially after this past week, they just annihilate the Broncos who had been coming on. That this guy's in there with a shot for $500,000. No.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, here, there are secret things about every team. With the Ravens, and it's kind of like with the Dolphins, how they don't beat good teams and that the offense doesn't show up against good teams. With the Ravens, they can always blow a fourth quarter lead, even at home. Always. Yeah. And so that's the big danger with them. I did pick them to win the Super Bowl, but that's the big danger with them. I mean, look, the thing that you don't realize with Kansas City, they won the Super Bowl with defense last year. I mean, everybody thinks Patrick Mahomes. It was the defense. That's why they're 8-0 this year. Yep. I don't know what his numbers are. I know through like 5 games, he had like 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. This is a defensive team. So that's the thing that worries me about the Ravens is that they can give up a fourth quarter lead even at home. But other than that, I'm still riding with them. Yeah, I'm riding with them as Super Bowl champs. I think that's a good ticket. Of course, my bets have been ass this year, but I still think it's a good ticket.
I mean, that's a beautiful ticket. What are you talking about? I mean, it has to have some considerable value even right now, but far more variables, or so it seems, in the National Football League, especially this year, where we don't know. I mean, we're waiting for a team like even Miami to completely flip-flop this 2-6 disastrous start, and as you suggest, maybe even have an outside chance of, as Lubie thinks. I don't think you think they're going to do it, Lubie. 7-2 the rest of the way. It just it doesn't strike me. Like you said, Chris, the offense has not had that spark that they could ignite at any time and then rattle off like 3 quick touchdowns.
Right.
And when that was happening, then all of a sudden the other team is pressured offensively, and the Dolphins defense would come up with something. Here's Van Ginkel running one in, but they're not doing that stuff this year. So and that hasn't happened since like the midpoint of last season. So
and I'll tell you this: the big plays, as we saw against Jacksonville, they cover up a lot of stink, right? Yes. Because the Dolphins, while making these 12 and 14 play drives, there's going to be that holding call, there's going to be that fumble, they're not a technically sound team, and so if the longer they have to go, the more these mistakes are going to surface. You do need that 80-yard Tyreek touchdown reception that comes after Javon Holland punching the ball out before Jacksonville runs into the end zone and scores and puts the game away. You need those big plays if you're the Dolphins. I mean, they got saved last week also. That Josh Allen touchdown run, I didn't see a holding on that. That was a phantom call. That was
bad.
So, you get some, but they need the big plays to cover up a lot of the stink that they have. They're not a good, station-to-station team. They need the 3-run homer, Defo. They can't hit 6 straight singles.
All right. And as I suggested at the top of the show, some advice here in light of Election Day, as you mentioned, and happy birthday.
Happy birthday again.
Don't go to the grocery store today and wait till tomorrow. If he wins, prices are going to be cut in half tomorrow.
That's right.
You'll see Publix deli managers being taken out of the store in handcuffs
That's right.
as all prices are slashed and everything is not only BOGO but it's 4 for 1.
Yes,
It's going to be great.
And immigrants are just going to stare at that big wall, going, "Boy, how do we get in?" Like there's not, they're just going to turn back. They're just going to turn back, right?
They're going to be turning themselves in because they don't want to deal with the violence of being carried out of their house,
baby.
nightsticks, battering their kneecaps. No, they don't want any of that. So the country will be saved tomorrow. We know this because, as he's been professing, I'm going to fix everything on day one.
Day one.
That's right. Hey,
players, don't fill up your car. I don't care if you're on fumes right now. Just wait till tomorrow. Gas will be $1.40. All right.
And NFL players will be standing for the national anthem once again, miraculously. We
go.
know they did it last week, but they're going to really stand this time.
Really.
Everybody will be saluting. You're going to have Kaepernick singing the anthem, as a matter of fact. Open up most NFL games. All right, Chris, we love you, man. Thanks. Happy birthday. You're a great American. Everybody always loves you when you come on the show or any time they run into you anywhere. You're always the same guy, just giving out that good vibe. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Chris Perkins, ladies and gentlemen.
That's cool. I know it's his birthday.
He's going to hammer this podcast. We might have to take a look at that, huh?
Should listen. Yeah. Look, he's not wrong. The offense is supposed to be the banner.
They haven't really measured up, you would have to say.
And they didn't get even to 30 points. Yeah. But again, from where they were, I'm trying to take it in strides.
No stops is not a sign of an efficiently operating defense.
That's my thing. Look, I get it.
I mean, he rattled it off. Touchdown.
Yeah, so you have to score more. I mean, but you have to stop teams. Like, I get with the injuries they have on defense, the offense has to carry the banner. I totally get it. But so we expect them. So you're saying they have to score 40 points a game? Like, I'm sorry.
Would you play a little D, Lubie?
Yeah, I can't expect that.
Would you play a little D, my friend?
Offense to put up 38 a game in the NFL.
You don't know how many times I heard that as I was running towards half court. After the ball, went up to the hoop there, and you're like, yo. I wasn't that guy. I resented that guy. I would at least wait around, and pretend that I was boxing somebody out. All right. Lubie, a lot of fun. So you and the mailman are off to the sandwich shop?
What sub?
Okay. That was Mayo's new discovery just south of La Bamba.
Oh, nice.
No, not La Bamba. The Baja Cafe.
It's in Pompano, so yeah. I'm stoked. It's not that far.
I think, is it Lighthouse Point? It's up there a little bit. No?
Okay.
Yeah. It's not far. I mean, it's like south of Hillsborough. Just south of Hillsborough, I want to say. Yeah.
Just for me.
Like I said, I see if you can cash a check there for me.
I'll try.
Right. Try and cash that check I gave you the other day. Good luck with that.
Obviously, I will do it there.
All right. So you'll be there later on today.
Yes.
All right. Very good, Mike Lubitz. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Go and vote. If you haven't voted yet, get out and vote.
I'm glad you reminded me. I got to get out there.
Get out and vote, people. Let's go.
All right. Do it. Yeah. And hold off on buying anything because tomorrow the economy will be fixed. They're not even going to wait for him to get into office. Biden, where is Biden, by the way? I mean, they cleverly spirited him away like he was Martha Mitchum. I mean,
he's actually been doing appearances and stuff, but yes.
Yeah, but every time he opens his mouth,
it's very low key. He anything he says is very easily taken to different levels, and not very hard to do that with the way he's talking these days. So keep him where he is. Let him.
The switcheroo late in the game. I mean. What were they not seeing a couple of years ago? The Democrats they should have been promoting. If Kamala had more time to establish herself, would this race be?
It would have been better. That's
closer. I'm not sure.
They never found how to attack her, and I think that was as important as anything. The more time you gave them, the more they would have found a way to attack her.
I mean, he did a great job. He used his usual in-depth assessment. She's stupid. She has a low IQ.
The two strategies.
She's a communist.
Were so different, and I think that mattered as much as anything. And I think if they had tried to be more sane, as people said, it would have muddied the water a little bit, but they didn't. They leaned into insane, and that's what you wanted. I mean, from our side, obviously.
Oh, it couldn't have gone any better the last couple of weeks.
You wanted him losing it. I'm sorry. They said it. That was the whole problem with the debate. The first one with Biden was it looked like he was off. Okay, that's what you needed from Trump.
Did that comedian cost Trump the presidency?
I don't know. People keep wanting to point to this cost. I think it's an amalgamation of things. I think a lot of things came together to make this election what I think it'll be, and we'll see what happens today.
It just amazes me that people could be undecided.
I think it's funny that you're still undecided. I mean, From how? Nothing's changing. You know who he is, and you have a
Yeah.
good sense of who she is. Pick one. I mean, come on.
The latest clever saying from the right is that, well, even though he's not perfect, he's she's unqualified or whatever. I'm like, not perfect.
He's a lot less than not perfect, guys. Biden was not perfect.
This is the most
Harris
lecherous
perfect.
creep in the history of the
He's
United States of America. You
I'm sorry.
if he wasn't on The Apprentice, nobody would know who the fuck he was anymore, right? Inherited a bunch of money.
He
Good for him.
sucks.
He
sucks.
All right. Well, we'll be hopefully seeing him talking about
Go
his
and
golf
vote,
game after
people.
today. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go vote,
exactly.
everybody, no matter
Go
what
and
your
vote,
opinion
please.
is. We
Vote.
we have ours. You have yours, and let's see. May
Get out and vote.
may the better person win. Let's put
But
it that.
Harris, I'm not mincing words. I'm sorry at this point.
Yeah.
My
not
friends
right
are
on this.
texting me all morning, freaking out. I'm like, just let it play out, man.
All right. All right. We got to get out of here. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
Iron Eagle tomorrow, you said?
Iron Eagle, 8:45 tomorrow. So we'll have
beautiful. All
just
right.
postpone a little bit.
9:07.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.